Years after disappearing, a dog returns home with a mysterious note attached to his collar. What was written left everyone in tears. Do you want to know where he was and what the message was that moved everyone? Discover this story of love and reunion that will touch your heart. The sky darkened over the small town of Oakville, Massachusetts, as heavy clouds gathered on the horizon. Olivia Bennett, a local artist known for her vibrant and lively paintings, watched anxiously from the window of her colonial-style home. Her faithful companion, Max, a golden retriever with a golden coat and gentle eyes, rested at her feet, oblivious to the approaching storm. "Come on, Max," Olivia called softly, stroking the dog's head. "We'd better take a quick walk before the rain starts." The two of them set off for a walk through the wooded neighborhood. The leaves on the trees rustled restlessly, and the air was heavy with the promise of rain. Olivia tightened her grip on Max's collar, feeling an inexplicable sense of apprehension. Suddenly, a loud clap of thunder ripped through the sky, making Olivia jump with fright. Max, startled by the noise, pulled hard on the collar, escaping Olivia's grip. Before she could react, the dog shot down the street, quickly disappearing into the darkness. "Max!" Olivia shouted, her heart racing with fear. "Max, get back here!" The rain began to fall in torrents, drenching Olivia as she ran through the streets of the neighborhood, desperately calling for Max. Lightning lit up the sky, momentarily revealing empty streets and houses with closed windows. Olivia's voice was hoarse from shouting, but she refused to give up. Hours passed and the storm finally subsided. Olivia, exhausted and drenched, staggered back home, her hopes dwindling with every step. The cruel reality began to set in. Max had disappeared. In the days that followed, Olivia barely slept or ate. She covered the neighborhood with posters, depicting Max with his characteristic white spot on his chest and describing him as her best friend. Sympathetic neighbors offered words of comfort and promises to keep an eye out. But as the days turned into weeks, Max's absence became a constant ache in Olivia's heart. Sitting in her studio, surrounded by blank canvases and unused brushes, Olivia stared out of the window. The view of the back garden, once a source of inspiration, now seemed empty without Max running through the grass or resting under the old apple tree. She picked up a paintbrush, determined to capture the essence of her furry friend on canvas, but tears blurred her vision. "Where are you, boy?" she whispered to the empty air. The weeks turned into months, and Olivia's tireless search continued. She visited every animal shelter within a 50-mile radius, spoke to every vet in the area, and even hired a pet detective. But Max seemed to have disappeared without a trace. At night, alone in her oversized bed, Olivia would find herself replaying that fateful night. What if she had held the leash tighter? What if they had stayed at home? Guilt and regret consumed her, robbing her of the sleep and joy that once defined her art and her life. But amidst the pain, a small flame of hope persisted. Olivia refused to believe that Max had simply disappeared forever. On one particularly lonely night, she made a solemn promise to herself and to the universe. She would never give up on Max. No matter how long it took or how difficult it was, she would keep looking, hoping, and loving her faithful companion. Little did Olivia know that her journey of loss and searching had only just begun, and that fate had plans that would test her resilience, challenge her beliefs, and ultimately redefine the meaning of love and loyalty in her life. The days dragged on in Oakville, Massachusetts, each one longer than the last for Olivia Bennett. Autumn arrived, painting the trees in shades of red and gold. But for Olivia, the world had lost its colors. Her search for Max continued relentlessly, driven by a mixture of hope and despair. On a cool October morning, Olivia headed to the local animal shelter, Paws and Hearts, for the 10th time that month. The familiar smell of feed and disinfectant greeted her as she entered, her eyes anxiously scanning the rows of cages. "Olivia," a gentle voice called out. It was Susan, one of the regular volunteers. "No sign of him yet, dear, but don't give up hope." Olivia nodded, swallowing the knot in her throat. "Thank you, Susan. I can't give up on him." As she walked between the cages, Olivia noticed a new face. A tall man with tousled brown hair was stroking a tabby cat through the bars of a cage. "Hi," he said, noticing Olivia. "I'm new here. My name is Nathan." "Olivia," she replied, trying to smile. Are you a volunteer? Nathan nodded. I started last week. I heard about you. About Max. I'm sorry. Something in the kindness of his eyes made Olivia open up. He's more than a dog, you know. Max was my best friend, my family. Nathan listened intently as Olivia talked about Max, his silly antics, how he always knew when she was sad, the way he cuddled up next to her while she painted. Don't give up, Nathan said softly. Miracles happen every day. I know that. There was something in his voice that made Olivia ask, Did you lose a pet too? Nathan smiled sadly. My dog, Bella. She ran away during a camping trip 3 years ago. I never stopped looking. Olivia felt an immediate connection with Nathan. Here was someone who really understood her pain, her unwavering determination. Over the next few weeks, Olivia and Nathan became close friends. They canvassed neighborhoods together, putting up posters and talking to residents. Nathan accompanied her on her visits to local shelters and vets. One night, exhausted after another day of fruitless searching, Olivia collapsed on her sofa. The walls of her living room, once covered with her vibrant paintings, were now littered with marked maps and lists of verified places. Her eyes landed on a framed photo of Max, his canine smile radiant. I'll find you, boy, Olivia whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. No matter how long it takes. That night, Olivia made a solemn promise to herself. She would never give up on Max. Even if it took years, even if the whole world told her to move on, she would keep looking. The months passed and the seasons changed. Winter covered Oakville with a blanket of snow, and spring brought new flowers and renewed hope. Olivia continued her search, now with Nathan by her side, offering silent support and understanding. Her art, once vibrant and full of life, became an expression of her pain and longing. She painted scenes of Max running through imaginary fields, portraits of him sleeping peacefully at the foot of his bed. Each brushstroke was a prayer, a wish for reunion. The Oakville community rallied around Olivia. Neighbors kept their eyes open. Children checked bushes and yards for signs of Max. Olivia and Max's story spread, touching hearts and inspiring others not to lose hope in their own struggles. As the second anniversary of Max's disappearance approached, Olivia found herself at an emotional crossroads. Part of her wanted to cling to hope with all her might, while another part longed for closure, for a chance to move on. But every time she thought about giving up, she remembered Max's gentle eyes, his unwavering loyalty, and so Olivia Bennett continued her search, one day at a time, sustained by the love of a dog who had changed her life forever. Summer arrived in Oakville with a wave of sweltering heat. 3 years had passed since Max had disappeared, and Olivia Bennett felt the weight of each day on her shoulders. Her tireless search had become a silent routine, a constant ache that she carried around like an amulet. One particularly hot Sunday morning, Olivia decided to take a walk in Oakville Memorial Park. The park, with its century-old oak trees and serene lake, always brought her a sense of peace, however momentary. As she walked along the shaded path, Olivia watched families picnicking and children playing. A group of dogs ran happily across the lawn, their barks echoing through the air. Olivia felt a familiar pang in her heart, remembering how Max used to love running in this very park. Suddenly, a distinct bark cut through the air. Olivia froze, her heart racing. That sound? It couldn't be. She turned slowly, her eyes frantically scanning the park. And then she saw him. About 50 meters away, standing at the edge of the lake, was a golden retriever. His fur, once bright gold, was darker and a little shaggy. But those eyes, Olivia would recognize them anywhere. "Max," she whispered, hardly daring to believe it. As if he had heard her name, the dog turned his head. Their eyes met, and at that moment, the world stopped spinning. "Max!" Olivia shouted, her voice cracking with emotion. She started to run, her legs shaking so badly that she could barely stand. The dog hesitated for a moment, as if he couldn't believe his own eyes. Then, with a bark of pure joy, he shot towards Olivia. They collided in a chaotic embrace of fur, tears, and interspersed laughter. Olivia buried her face in Max's neck, inhaling his familiar scent. He licked her face frantically, his tail wagging so hard that his whole body shook. "Oh, Max," Olivia sobbed, clinging to him as if she feared he might disappear again. "You're back. You've really come back." The people around stopped to watch the scene, many with tears in their eyes as they witnessed the emotional reunion. Nathan, who was in the park that day, ran up to them, hardly believing his eyes. "Olivia, is that really him?" Nathan asked, his voice trembling with emotion. Olivia just nodded, unable to form words. Max looked at Nathan, wagging his tail in recognition of the man who had helped him so much in his search. While stroking Max, Olivia noticed something strange about his collar. Attached to it was a small waterproof tube. With trembling hands, she opened it and pulled out a rolled-up piece of paper. "What's this?" Nathan asked, leaning over to get a better look. Olivia unfolded the paper carefully, her eyes roaming over the handwritten words. As she read, her expression changed from confusion to shock, and finally to a mixture of relief and horror. "Oh my God," she whispered, looking at Max with new eyes. He's been rescued. But there's so much more to this story." Nathan put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "What does it say?" Olivia took a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. "It says that Max was taken by a group that mistreated animals, but he escaped and helped save other animals too." The implications of what Max had been through over the last 3 years began to sink in. Olivia hugged her furry friend again, silent tears streaming down her face. "You're a hero, Max," she whispered in his ear, "and now you're home at last." As the sun began to set over Oakville Memorial Park, Olivia, Max, and Nathan walked home together. Max's unexpected return was not only the end of a long wait, but the beginning of a new journey, a journey of healing, discovery, and above all, unconditional love. The morning sun filtered through the curtains of Olivia's room, where she sat on the edge of the bed, the note found on Max's collar in her trembling hands. Max rested at her feet, his attentive eyes never leaving his owner's face. Nathan was sitting in a nearby chair, his face a mixture of concern and curiosity. "Are you ready to read the rest?" Nathan asked softly. Olivia nodded, taking a deep breath before unfolding the crumpled paper completely. Her voice shook as she began to read aloud. "To anyone who finds Max, this dog is a hero. He was rescued from a group that mistreated animals in a clandestine operation in the mountains of Vermont. But Max wasn't just a victim, he became a savior." Olivia paused, tears shining in her eyes. Max moved closer, laying his head on her lap in a gesture of comfort. "During the rescue," she continued, "Max helped guide other animals to safety. His courageous barking and intelligence saved dozens of lives. He stayed with us at Fazenda Esperanza, a sanctuary for rescued animals, helping others to recover from their traumas." Nathan leaned forward, his expression one of amazement. "Incredible," he murmured. Olivia continued reading, her voice gaining strength. "Max has been a source of comfort and healing for many here, but we always knew he had a home somewhere. His faraway look on rainy days told us that there was someone waiting for him." She looked at Max, who stared at her with eyes full of love and loyalty. "Oh, Max," she whispered, stroking his ears. "You've been through so much." "There's more." Nathan pointed gently at the note. Olivia nodded and continued. "We decided it was time for Max to come home. Using the information on his worn collar, we traced his hometown. He left yesterday, guided by an instinct that we knew would lead him back to you. If you're reading this, it means that Max has completed his final journey, the journey home." The last words were almost inaudible, drowned out by the overflowing emotions. Nathan moved to sit next to Olivia, putting a comforting arm around her shoulders. "He really is extraordinary," Nathan said softly. Olivia nodded, unable to speak for a moment. Finally, she found her voice. "We need to go there, Nathan. We need to visit this hope farm. I need to understand everything that's happened." Nathan smiled, squeezing her shoulder gently. "Of course. Let's plan the trip." Over the next few days, Olivia and Nathan dedicated themselves to organizing the trip to Vermont. They researched Hope Farm, discovering that it was a sanctuary well known for its work with animals rescued from abusive situations. Meanwhile, Max was readjusting to life at home. Some nights, Olivia found him restless, barking softly in his sleep. She wondered what memories haunted him, what horrors he had witnessed. A week after Max's return, Olivia, Nathan, and Max embarked on a road trip to Vermont. The landscape gradually changed from suburbs to dense forests and majestic mountains. When they finally arrived at the entrance to Hope Farm, Olivia felt her heart race. This place had been Max's home for 3 years. What would she discover here? As they got out of the car, they were greeted by a middle-aged woman with a warm smile. "Welcome to Hope Farm," she said. "I'm Martha, the owner. You must be Olivia and Nathan. And this," her eyes filled with tears at the sight of Max. "Oh, Max. Welcome back, old friend." As Max ran up to greet Martha enthusiastically, Olivia felt a mixture of emotions, gratitude for those who had looked after Max, but also a twinge of jealousy. There was so much about her beloved dog's life that she didn't know. Martha turned to Olivia and Nathan, her face serious. "Come with me," she said softly. "There is so much you need to know about Max's extraordinary journey." With heavy hearts, but full of anticipation, Olivia and Nathan followed Martha into the farmhouse, ready to discover the truth about Max's 3 lost years and the lives he had touched along the way. The afternoon sun bathed Hope Farm in a soft golden hue as Olivia, Nathan, and Max followed Martha along a winding path between green pastures. The air was filled with the sound of distant barking and the occasional neigh of horses. "Our farm is home to over 200 rescued animals," Martha explained, her face alight with a warm smile. "Each one has its own story of survival. But Max, well, he's become a legend here." Olivia squeezed Nathan's hand, seeking silent support. Seeing Max so at ease in this strange environment aroused a complex mixture of emotions in her: pride, gratitude, and a twinge of jealousy that she struggled to suppress. Martha led them to a large red barn. As they entered, they were greeted by a wave of warmth and the comforting smell of fresh hay. On the walls, there were dozens of pictures of animals, some clearly traumatized, others radiant in their recovery. "This is our wall of hope," Martha said, gesturing to the pictures. "Each animal here has a story of overcoming, and right here—" She pointed to a photo in the center of the wall. Olivia gasped. It was Max, thinner and with disheveled fur, but with that unmistakable twinkle in his eyes. In the photo, he was sitting next to a frightened little calf. "This is Buddy," Martha explained. "He was rescued from a meat farm. He was so traumatized that he refused to eat or interact with anyone, until Max arrived." Nathan leaned over to examine the photo more closely. "How did Max help him?" Martha smiled, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "Max simply sat by Buddy's side, day after day. Sometimes he would bring a toy or a piece of hay. Slowly, Buddy began to trust. It was the first step in Buddy's recovery, and the beginning of Max's journey as a therapy dog." Olivia knelt down, hugging Max tightly. "You always knew how to heal broken hearts, didn't you, boy?" she whispered, her voice laced with emotion. As they walked around the farm, Martha shared more stories about Max's exploits, how he helped calm a frightened horse during a storm, how he gently played with rescued puppies, teaching them to trust again, and how, on a cold winter's night, he alerted the team to a barn fire, saving dozens of lives. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange, they sat on a wooden bench overlooking the fields. Max rested at Olivia's feet, his tail wagging lazily. "You know," Martha said softly, "despite all the good Max has done here, we always knew he had a home somewhere. On rainy days, he'd be restless, staring at the horizon. Now I understand why." Olivia wiped away a tear. "I never stopped looking for him," she said. "Not for a day." Nathan put a comforting arm around Olivia's shoulders. "And that dedication brought him home." Martha nodded, smiling. "Max has touched many lives here, but of course his true home is with you, Olivia. The love you share, it's something special." As the stars began to dot the night sky, Olivia felt a sense of peace settle over her. Max's stories of courage and compassion had filled in the gaps of the 3 lost years. Now, she understood that her beloved companion had not only survived, but flourished, spreading love and healing wherever he went. "Let's go home, Max," Olivia whispered, stroking his soft ears. "We have our own healing to do. And so, With full hearts and a new appreciation for Max's extraordinary journey, they prepared to return to Oakville, ready to begin the next chapter of their lives together. Fall arrived in Oakville, Massachusetts, painting the trees in shades of red and gold. Olivia Bennett watched the leaves falling through the window of her studio, a paintbrush suspended over the canvas in front of her. Max slept peacefully at her feet, his fur shining in the soft afternoon light. Since her return from Fazenda Esperanza, Olivia had felt a new energy pulsing inside her. Max's stories of courage and compassion had lit a flame in her heart, an urgent need to do something meaningful. A soft knock on the door brought her out of her thoughts. It was Nathan, his warm smile lighting up the room. "Hey," he said, entering the studio. "How's the new project going?" Olivia smiled, gesturing to the partially completed canvas. It was a vibrant mural depicting animals of all shapes and sizes, with Max in the center, his gentle gaze captured perfectly in paint. "It's taking shape," she replied, "but I feel it needs to be more than just a painting." Nathan moved closer, studying the mural. "What do you have in mind?" Olivia took a deep breath, her ideas finally taking shape. "I've been thinking, what if we organized an event in the park? Something to raise funds for the local shelter and awareness about animal adoption and rescue." Nathan's eyes lit up. "That's brilliant, Olivia. We could have information stands, activities for children, maybe even an adoption area." In the weeks that followed, Olivia and Nathan plunged headlong into preparations for the event. They contacted the local shelter, Paws and Hearts, who were enthusiastic about the idea. The Oakville community rallied around the project, with volunteers offering to help and local businesses donating supplies. Olivia's mural became the center of attention. She transferred it to a large panel that would be displayed in the park during the event. Each brushstroke told a story of hope and redemption, inspired by Max's extraordinary journey. As the day of the event approached, the excitement in Oakville was palpable. Colorful posters announcing the Festival of Animal Hope appeared in stores and on lampposts all over town. The story of Max, the hero dog who came home, spread by word of mouth, attracting interest even from neighboring towns. The day before the big day, Olivia was in her studio, putting the finishing touches to the mural. Nathan walked in, carrying 2 cups of steaming coffee. "How are you feeling?" he asked, handing Olivia a cup. She smiled, although her eyes revealed a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. "Nervous," she admitted, "but also hopeful. It's as if everything we've been through, the loss, the waiting, the reunion, is leading us to this moment." Nathan nodded, understanding. "You're doing something incredible, Olivia. You're turning your pain into something beautiful and meaningful." Olivia looked at Max, who was watching them both with his wise, gentle eyes. "No, we are," she corrected softly. "I wouldn't have gotten this far without you, Nathan, or without you, Max." That night, while the city slept, Olivia lay awake, her heart full of anticipation. Tomorrow, she would share Max's story with the world. Tomorrow, she would turn her journey of loss and reunion into a beacon of hope for others. As the stars shone outside, Olivia made a silent promise to herself and Max. This would only be the beginning. Together, they would continue to spread love, compassion, and hope, one heart at a time. The day dawned clear and fresh in Oakville, Massachusetts, perfect for the Festival of Animal Hope. Oakville Memorial Park was unrecognizable, transformed into an animal lover's paradise. Colorful tents dotted the lawn, banners with messages of hope and compassion fluttered in the soft autumn wind. Olivia arrived early, her heart pounding with a mixture of nervousness and excitement. Max walked proudly beside her, as if sensing the importance of the day. Nathan met them at the entrance to the park, his smile broad and infectious. "Everything's ready," he said, giving Olivia a quick hug. "You won't believe how many people are already queuing to get in." As the park filled up, Olivia marveled at the community's response. Families with excited children, elderly people with their faithful canine companions, teenagers eager to help, all united by a common cause. Olivia's mural, now enlarged and set up in the center of the park, attracted admiring glances. Many stopped to study the details, pointing at Max and whispering about his incredible story. At 10 o'clock sharp, Olivia took to the small stage set up near the lake. The crowd fell silent, all eyes on her. Max sat faithfully beside her, his presence a source of strength. "Welcome to the Festival of Animal Hope," Olivia began, her voice trembling slightly before gaining confidence. "3 years ago, I lost my best friend, my faithful companion, Max." She paused, stroking Max's head. But fate had other plans. Max didn't just come back to me. He brought with him stories of courage, compassion, and hope. As Olivia shared Max's extraordinary journey, from his disappearance to his work as a therapy dog at Fazenda Esperanza, the crowd listened in respectful silence, many with tears in their eyes. Max's story reminds us that every animal has value, has a story to tell, Olivia concluded. Today, we celebrate not just Max, but all animals who need a home, love, a second chance. Together, we can make a difference. The park erupted in applause. As the day progressed, the festival came alive. Children laughed as they learned about animal care in interactive workshops. Adults chatted with representatives from local shelters, many leaving with adoption forms in hand. At the adoption booth, dogs and cats found new homes, their stories of rescue echoing Max's own. Olivia watched, moved, as families formed before her eyes. Nathan approached, his eyes shining with emotion. "Olivia, you won't believe it. We've already raised more than double our target for the shelter." Olivia hugged Nathan impulsively, tears of joy streaming down her face. "We did it," she whispered. "We really made a difference." As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, Olivia found herself surrounded by smiling faces and grateful hearts. Stories of successful rescues and new friendships echoed around her. Max, lying at her feet, looked at her with those wise, gentle eyes. In that moment, Olivia understood that her journey of loss and reunion had turned into something much bigger. It was a new beginning, not just for her and Max, but for an entire community united by their love of animals. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Olivia made a silent promise. This festival would only be the beginning. With Max by her side, and the support of friends like Nathan, she would continue to spread hope and compassion, one heart at a time. The weeks that followed the Animal Hope Festival brought a palpable change to Oakville. The small Massachusetts suburb seemed to have awakened to a new consciousness, with more people adopting pets and volunteering at the local shelter. For Olivia Bennett, it was as if the whole town had been touched by the magic that Max had brought back with him. One particularly pleasant autumn afternoon, Olivia decided to take a walk around the neighborhood with Max. The trees were at the height of their autumnal glory, their leaves forming a golden-red carpet on the sidewalks. As they walked, Olivia noticed something different. People stopped to greet her, many bending down to pet Max. "It's the hero dog," exclaimed a little girl, her eyes shining with admiration as she stroked Max's soft fur. Olivia smiled, feeling a surge of pride and gratitude. "Yes, he is," she replied softly, "and he loves making new friends." As they continued their walk, Olivia found herself reconnecting with neighbors she had barely known before. There was Mrs. Johnson, an elderly widow who was now walking a small terrier adopted from the shelter. Mr. Ramirez, who had always seemed so reserved, now smiled broadly as he talked about the kitten his family had adopted after the festival. Every conversation, every smile, was a reminder of the impact Max's story had had on the community. Olivia felt like she was rediscovering her own city, seeing it through new eyes, eyes full of hope and compassion. When they reached the local park, Olivia spotted a familiar figure sitting on a bench. It was Nathan, engrossed in a book. Max barked happily at the sight of him, running ahead of Olivia. Nathan looked up, his face lighting up with a smile. "Hey, you two," he called, closing the book and getting up to greet them. As they talked, Olivia couldn't help but notice how Nathan seemed more relaxed, more at peace with himself since the festival. There was a lightness in his smile that hadn't been there before. "You know," Nathan said, his voice soft and thoughtful, "since Max came back and we organized the festival, I feel like I found a purpose I didn't know I was looking for." Olivia nodded, understanding the feeling perfectly. "It's like we've reconnected not just with the community, but with a part of ourselves," she replied. As they walked together through the park, Olivia shared her observations about the changes in the city. Nathan listened attentively, his eyes shining with enthusiasm. "Olivia," he said finally, "I think we should visit Martha at Hope Farm again. Maybe we can learn more about how to continue this work here in Oakville." The idea ignited a spark of excitement in Olivia. "That would be wonderful," she agreed, "and I'm sure Max would love to see his old friends." At the sound of Max's name, the dog looked up, wagging his tail as if he understood and approved of the plan. That night, as Olivia prepared for bed, she reflected on how her life had changed. The pain of losing Max, which had once threatened to consume her, had now turned into something beautiful and meaningful. She had found not only her beloved companion, but also a community, a purpose, and, perhaps, something more. With Max nestled at her feet and her heart full of hope for the future, Olivia fell asleep, dreaming of the new adventures that awaited them at Hope Farm and beyond. Fall gave way to winter in Oakville, Massachusetts, covering the town in a white blanket of snow. Olivia Bennett watched the flakes fall gently outside her studio window, a paintbrush suspended in her hand. The smell of fresh paint filled the air, mingling with the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. In the corner of the studio, Max slept peacefully in his padded bed, occasionally stirring in his doggy dreams. Max's constant presence had brought a new energy to Olivia's art. Her paintings, once melancholy and gloomy, now burst with vibrant colors and hopeful scenes. A soft knock on the door brought Olivia out of her reverie. It was Nathan, his cheeks flushed from the cold, carrying a box of still-warm donuts from the local bakery. "I thought we could use a little extra energy today," he said with a warm smile, placing the box on the table. Olivia smiled back, feeling that familiar wave of warmth that Nathan's presence always brought. In the months since the Animal Hope Festival, their friendship had blossomed into something deeper, more meaningful. They hadn't put a label on it yet, but Olivia knew that whatever it was special. "Thanks," she said, picking up a donut. "So, are you ready for our big adventure?" Nathan nodded enthusiastically. "I can't wait to get back to Hope Farm. Martha called last night, said she has some exciting ideas to share with us." While they ate, they discussed their plans to expand the work they had started with the festival. The idea of creating an animal-assisted therapy program in Oakville had captured both their imaginations. With Max's experience and the knowledge they hoped to gain at Hope Farm, they felt they could make a real difference in the community. "You know," Nathan said thoughtfully, "I never imagined my life would take this turn. Before I met you and Max, I was lost, I guess. Now I feel like I've finally found my purpose." Olivia reached out, entwining her fingers with Nathan's. "I know exactly what you mean. It's as if everything we've been through, the loss, the waiting, the reunion, has brought us to this moment." Their eyes met, a silent understanding passing between them. Max, sensing the change in atmosphere, got up and came over to them, putting his head in Olivia's lap. "And you, boy," Olivia said, stroking Max's ears, "you're the hero of this story. Without you, none of this would have happened." The rest of the morning passed in a flurry of activity. Olivia and Nathan finalized the details of their trip, packed supplies for Max, and reviewed their notes for the meeting with Martha. As they prepared to leave, Olivia took one last look at her studio. The walls, once empty and cold, were now covered with sketches and paintings, each telling a story of hope, love, and redemption. With Max by her side and Nathan waiting in the car, Olivia felt a wave of gratitude and anticipation. She didn't know exactly what the future held, but for the first time in years, she was eager to find out. As she closed the door to the studio, Olivia made a silent promise to herself to embrace every moment of this new journey with all the courage and love that Max had taught her. Snow was falling softly on Hope Farm when Olivia, Nathan, and Max arrived. The cold Vermont air was invigorating, charged with the promise of new beginnings. Martha greeted them at the entrance to the farm, her face lit up with a warm smile. "Welcome back," she said, hugging Olivia and Nathan before bending down to stroke Max. "We have a lot to talk about." As they walked around the estate, Olivia noticed subtle changes. New stables had been built, and a training area for therapy dogs was under construction. "Max's story has inspired many people," Martha explained. "We received donations from all over the country, to expand our animal rehabilitation program. In Martha's cozy office, they sat down to discuss their plans. Olivia and Nathan shared their ideas for an animal-assisted therapy program in Oakville, their eyes shining with enthusiasm. Martha listened attentively, nodding approvingly. "It's a wonderful idea," she said, "but there's something else you need to know about Max." Olivia and Nathan exchanged puzzled glances. Max, sensing the change in atmosphere, sat up straight, his wise eyes fixed on Martha. "Max isn't just an ordinary dog," Martha began, her voice soft but full of emotion. "He's a trained therapy dog with extraordinary abilities to help people with trauma and mental health problems." The revelation hit Olivia like a wave. Suddenly, everything made sense. Max's incredible ability to comfort, his infinite patience, his almost supernatural intuition. "During the time Max has been with us," Martha continued, "he has helped dozens of people overcome deep trauma. Veterans with PTSD, children who have suffered abuse, elderly people dealing with depression. Max has touched all these lives in ways we can barely comprehend." Silent tears streamed down Olivia's face as she absorbed the magnitude of what she was hearing. Nathan held her hand, offering silent support. "Why didn't you tell us this before?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling with emotion. Martha smiled gently. "We wanted to make sure that Max had completely readapted to his life at home before we shared this information. Besides," she added with a twinkle in her eye, "we thought you'd discover for yourselves how special he really is." At that moment, as if he understood that they were talking about him, Max stood up and put his head in Olivia's lap. She hugged him, feeling a wave of love and gratitude so intense that she could hardly breathe. "What does this mean for our plans?" Nathan asked, his voice full of wonder and possibility. Martha smiled broadly. "It means that you have an incredible opportunity. With Max's skills and the love you have for him and the community, you can create something truly transformative in Oakville." The next few hours passed in a whirlwind of planning and dreaming. The idea of an animal-assisted therapy center in Oakville took shape, with Max as the inspiration and heart of the project. When they finally left Martha's office, the sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and orange. Olivia, Nathan, and Max stopped for a moment to admire the view. "It's amazing, isn't it?" Nathan said softly. "How such a painful loss can turn into something so beautiful and meaningful." Olivia nodded, tears of joy in her eyes. "Max didn't just come home," she said. "He brought us a purpose, a mission." As they watched the sunset, Olivia felt a sense of peace and certainty settle over her. The future was full of promise and possibility, and she couldn't wait to see what would come next. With Max by her side and Nathan holding her hand, Olivia knew she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Together, they would create a legacy of love, healing and hope that would extend far beyond Oakville, touching lives in ways they had never imagined. The sun finally disappeared over the horizon, marking the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. And so, with full hearts and soaring spirits, Olivia, Nathan, and Max embarked on the next phase of their extraordinary journey, ready to spread Max's magic to the world.